Welcome everybody. My name is Spande, and we're here to do what I think everybody's been wanting to do, is get out and talk a little bit about Corvette. So specifically today, we're talking about some of the things that are going on in the Corvette assembly plant, which I happen to run. I happen to have a couple of our key people here. I will take the time before we start to introduce. If you have not met them, I would encourage you to maybe talk to them afterwards. First here is Chuck Valentini. Chuck runs the body shop and the paint shop. Later on, we are going to give you a surprise as it relates to some of the future colors. Next to him is Nora Roper. Nora is the assistant plant manager, so she is responsible for all engineering, maintenance, and manufacturing operations. And then next to her is Rachel Bagshaw, who is our communications manager. And you can imagine in the Corvette world, we keep Rachel very, very busy. So these three are here to help support, and we're going to talk about some pretty cool topics. Hopefully we answer some questions, maybe generate a few more questions, and that's what we're here to do today. We always start off our meetings in the company, in our business, day-to-day business, with a safety message, and I think that now is a time that would reinforce the fact that with this COVID-19, masks are kind of a part of our daily routine. I have the privilege of wearing a mask for probably 14 hours a day. And what you see here is the efforts that our company has taken over the course of the last months. Over 10 million masks have been produced by our company. And in fact, we brought some of these with a little GM logo on them. And these are going to be available for all of you over here on these tables, so you can take these. We actually had prepared these packages of 5 for all of our employees to take home with them for the long weekend. It's simply just an effort from us to our employees to encourage them to help maintain a point of health. Of course, we had the initiative for masks. We also had the initiative to produce ventilators. 30,000 ventilators were produced by our company to help out the overall situation that we're dealing with. Okay, so the story here. I want my steak and I want to eat it too. What we're going to talk about is the process of what happens in the factory from the time that people order cars to the time that they're delivered. A lot of people on blogs, on different forums, they have a lot of ideas. They say everything's on quality hold this or that, and I've got a 3,000 status on my order. I've got to a 31, a 32, a 38, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to walk you through what some of that really means, and the intent is to demystify that and maybe even explain the question, wait a minute, my friend ordered my car or his car after me, and he got his car before I did. I'll give you some generic reasons why that could happen to help explain that. So, look at this. I ordered my car, or I ordered torch red, but my dealer said I can get my car faster if I change to blade silver. These are quotes that we have pulled off of different forums. I had the same order date as a friend of mine. His dealer says his car's been accepted by production control, and mine hasn't. Why could that be? How could that be? And then, according to the forum, several people who had the same acceptance date as me have produced cars. Why hasn't mine been produced yet? Has anybody ever had to deal with that? Everybody is perfectly happy with everything that goes on in the factory. Okay, we're going to skip everything that I have prepared for you guys. No, we're not going to skip. I'm here and you're here, and we're going to go through it. So anyway, we do have... In the factory, we have some build restrictions, and I just have put a few of these as examples for just a very brief conversation. First of all, coupe and convertible. We cannot make 100% coupes or 100% convertibles at any given time. So the way that we source our parts, we try to predict what the fraction might be, and then the different cars have different work content. So coupe and convertible is the easiest example. A convertible, when you install that convertible top, it takes more time to do than a coupe. And in this case, the workload in those specific stations are exaggerated a little bit. It's not a problem if you do one. It's a problem if you do 2, 3, 4 in a row. What you'll end up doing is you'll end up slowing everything down. So when we schedule building of cars, we typically never build coupe or convertibles back to back for that reason. So that's one restriction that we built in. The next one that we have here is colors. Now Chuck would tell you that they're, when you see a picture of the line in the plan, in fact you can see here, black, I believe that's torch red, and then white, different colors. We don't build in batches. However, we do have some issues that we like to control, and Chuck would tell you that we don't like to build in batches because sometimes that creates a larger liability. If there is any issue in those colors or in the paint, then we have many more that have to somehow be remediated. So manufacturing would always say do single piece flow, do whatever you need as the orders come, and we do that. So colors sometimes have some limiting factors. And then various options, and the example here is what we call E60. E60 is the 2020 Stingray front end lift system. That also takes two issues. It takes more energy or specific work content to install all of those systems. It also takes parts, and as I mentioned before, we don't source every car to have every option. So every car, if you ordered a car with E60, and many people have, it's much more popular than we thought. It might take a little bit longer for us to get to that car. So those are some of the examples that you could have. And then also, as I mentioned, supplier capacity. Suppliers, we maybe even going back to the ZR1, I see we have one of our ZR1 customers up here right in the front row. These are very, very, very special parts, and we've had that situation with the current car. In some cases, everybody knows, it's well known, the high wing, we have a limited supply, and many, many people want that. So we have to match the supply base capacity, and we try to change that, but sometimes we don't predict what customers want in its entirety. All right, so here we go, starting to talk a little bit about what happens from the time that you order a car to the time that the car gets delivered. And this concept here is what we say is demystifying the order to plant dealer operations. So this is a situation. I put my order in for the Corvette. Now what is going to happen? And like I said, there's not many times a day, certainly not a week that goes by where somebody's not sending a text message to myself or others asking what the status of their car is. So we're going to talk about that. You may have heard about this event 3000. This is what your dealer will tell you, and these are all dealer-facing numbers and processes that we have. This means that you have a vehicle that you've ordered that's been approved to be built, and it's accepted by our production control. So it means that there's no problem building that car. We'll go ahead and build that, and that's what that means, and that's what your dealer will tell you. The next thing that happens is that this moves from 3,000 to 3,100. When you see 3,000, it's approved to be built. When it moves to 3,100, your dealer is told, and then that means that it's available to be sequenced. And then it receives a sequence number. And what sequence means for us is that when we build cars, we don't build just anybody's car at any point in time. The cars that we're going to produce for the next roughly 3 weeks are all predetermined what they will be. So if everybody in this room had a car that would be built in the next 3 weeks, they would be built in a certain order, and that cannot be changed. And that, as I have explained before, is due to the fact that we have so many very, very expensive components. There's no way that we could keep an inventory. The easy example would be seats. We have 3 different kinds of seats. There are many different materials that go on the seats. There's different colors of seats. These seats are very expensive. We could not have a warehouse full of different kinds of seats that we would pull on. We would certainly get it wrong, and we'd be stuck with inventory that would be obsolete. Therefore, we ask our suppliers to build the seats, in this case, correctly for the car that would be built to order. So we basically have our suppliers holding that inventory and then delivering directly to the line in the order that we need it. Okay, the next one is 3,300. This is the scheduled for production. That means that at that point we have a pretty good idea, at the very least, of the week that the car would be produced, and sometimes even, sometimes we even have it down to the day. The only thing that could be of impact there is if we have some type of a disruption. And then what we do is we have 3,400. That means that these builds now have been broadcasted to the plant. Then we have a VIN is assigned, and then it is truly game on. It's not theoretical then. Now you have your car, it's been sequenced, the suppliers have all accepted that. We know what number your car will be, and that would be event 3,400. So this, some of you may have seen this in the past. It's just a quick graphic that shows how the car moves around the factory and all of the different systems. What we're going to talk about now is what happens when the car now has been built, and what happens after that. So this is one of these things that my taking the time and effort to explain what happens after a car is built, this idea that cars are put on a quality hold. We want to talk a little bit more about what actually happens in there. So here's probably one of the most famous photographs of car coming off the line. Of course, this is VIN number 1, and it's been all over the internet. It's pretty dramatic. I have to say, even though I get a chance to see cars coming off the line every day, I still look at that and I think that was a good day for for the world, for all of us. Okay, so back to this little layout. If you see in the upper right-hand corner, you see the shaded in blue area. What we're showing here, and how many people here have been in the plant and have seen the operations? I would say almost everybody. So what we're talking about are the things that happen after the final line. And so the final line is when the car first started. Maybe you've had a chance, or you've seen when we've had tours, different people hopping in the car and starting the car for the very first time. After that, the car goes through alignment, and we've got some videos that shows what happens underneath the car. Car going through DVT, and then through what we call a care process and a few other things. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what all those various steps are. So the first one that we have is that now we have this event 3,800. Remember, this now means that the car has been produced. And what's left? What's left is the quality checks that we have to do. The car has been built, but we need to do a lot of things before we will allow the car to leave our possession. And the first thing that happens is alignment. And so in our alignment, or sometimes in the plant we refer to it as the alignment pit, the car is driven over this alignment pit, and then there are operators underneath the car that are taking the time to do the work. About 30 individual checks. So as many of the people in the room know, you have caster camber toe on the C8 on all 4 wheels, and then a number of other checks. In that station, we also aim the headlights, and we do a few other checks. So lots of things going on in alignment, and we've got a quick video here. So the car, this is from underneath, so you see the car, and this is actually looking at the back of the car. And then what you'll see here, this is all of the measurements that we're looking to get to make sure that all of the alignments have been done correctly. The first thing that happens is that we put a sensor. This is what's going to measure the caster on that corner of the car. And then once those are set in place, then you'll see the operator working to set caster, camber, and toe. So on those lower 2 right here, you'll see the wrench that's in the operator's right hand is just holding and adjusting a eccentric nut, and then the tool on the other side is one of our torque controllers that's torquing down that nut in the proper, or the fastener in the proper place. That happens on both sides of the vehicle. It's kind of an interesting and a very high capacity tool there. And the neat thing is that you can see that it does the fastener for both of those. Of course, they rotate in different directions, but you'll see the tool just, once he's done, it'll just slide forward and it captures the other fastener. So very efficient, and the whole time the wheels are rotating to make sure that we have a unrestricted movement of the suspension so that we don't have any binds. I would venture to guess that nobody's ever seen this perspective of what happens underneath the car, which is cool. The last thing that we do is we go back up and we do a little torque check to make sure that the toe is correct, and that's it. That car is ready to go, at least half of it. Set all the tools back in their proper places, take the sensors off. You notice they go into very specific locations. There's a place for everything, and everything needs to be in its place. And then car drives off. And where's it going? So what's the next step? The next step is we go to DVT, and if you've been in the plant, you've seen this. We're going to give you a different perspective where we're actually going to go in the car, and you'll kind of see it as the driver would be driving the car. If you look down at the bottom of there, it's really over 8,000 checks are done in DVT. It's a fantastic amount. This is a combination of two things. The car will check a lot of things itself. And just as an example, you might see a check engine light. A check engine light, there's hundreds of things that can cause a check engine light to come on. In here, we communicate with the vehicle to simply understand that there is some type of an error code that the car has found. Meanwhile, we also plug into the OBD2 port, and we're looking to find things such as, are the antennas working properly for OnStar, for FM, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these numbers are staggering in this number of over 8,000 specific checks. So let's take a look at the little video. By the way, the car is driving over these white spots that are on the floor. Those are used for forward-facing camera alignment. And then as the car goes in the booth, on the right-hand side, we actually had a group of people that were kind of watching this. Most of you, if you've been in the plant, you've seen this happen before. And then we cut in and we can take a look at what happens inside the car. So here's the operator, the driver, and this is a very skilled process where you need to have a very light foot and do exactly what the test says. The cable is plugging into that OBD2 port, so that's like the scan port that you would use if you take your car to a dealership. And then superimposed on the upper right here is the screen that's in front of the driver, and that's going to tell the driver what they need to do at any given time. So you can see it says 14 miles an hour. You look over at the IP, you can see that these are all matching. And as you go through the test, you can see that yellow bar with the line going back and forth. That's either telling the driver to accelerate to a certain speed, to hold speed. And then you get to a point where it will also tell the driver to brake. And if you watch this closely, you'll see the car kind of bouncing around because we force the car to check individual brakes. So it's checking the right front, the right rear, the left rear. And to do all of that, the driver has to have the brake in a very certain position. So you can see two hands on the wheel and holding that little 38, 36, 35 right in that green zone to make sure that we get exactly what we want. And honestly, as in the C7, when the performance started going up and up and up, when we have a lot of power, it gets to be more and more difficult. Just a little bit of throttle can change the acceleration or the speed of the car. So there you see some engine speed, and once again, the car is stopped right now, waiting for the test to continue, and then eventually you will get the operator will get the green light saying that car is passed, and then it's ready to move out of the area. So then we have these check sheets, and what you'll see is that the operator, once we go through, he's looking, ready for his individual stamp on the paper that moves with the car. Once you get the green light, he takes his individualized stamp, puts it into the box saying that the DVT has passed successfully, and then the car moves on, and then we have that record. All the aspects of that test and the results of those tests are also saved, and we can go back and look at those and reference them when we would need to. So that's DVT. All right, so what's next? Then we go through what we refer to as launch water test. We say launch water test because when we bring a new vehicle to production, trying to seal a car up is probably more difficult than you might think. And we have put this in place where we, for all intents and purposes, this test really submerges the car. We put so much water on the car that for all intents and purposes it's underwater, so we will find leaks. And this is where you see this car really being doused with water over the course of a few minutes. And as we get better with making sure that we have zero leaks in the car, many of these tests that we have, we say that we earn our way out of them. Once we prove that we're capable, then we reduce that to an audit. And in this case, you can't even see the car. Like I said, there are thousands of gallons of water that are put on top of this car, so every crook and cranny is going to be exposed, the top and the bottom of the car, and underneath we will find a leak. Operators are in the car at this point, and we're looking for anything that might be coming in the cabin. Of course, then we're also looking in the case of this car, the frunk, and in the trunk area, see if we have anything that's wet. Okay, so then this launch is what we just refer to as the process. We do have a standard water test that every car goes through, but this is much longer than that. And this is in addition to what we would normally have. One of the things that we decided that we wanted to do in the plant, it's not required, but we just simply want to make sure that we don't have cars that have any types of leaks. Okay, so the next thing that we have is we start doing some more quality checks. We refer to this fondly as Corvette Care. If you were at a Cadillac plant, they might call it Cadillac Care. And this is where we're taking a closer look at things going on with the car. We have a number of checks. We say 32 there. And we have a quick idea of some of the things that are done here. All of these things are done in the process. So it might be on our skillet line. Maybe you've seen our operations and videos where we perform a job by an operator, and then we have somebody else coming behind that operator to verify that the operation was done correctly. Now, this might be because we have a very sensitive operation, or we have a very sensitive process that we just want to make sure that it's done correctly for a number of reasons. Other things that we do here is we do 100% functionality checks. So as the example here, seats, fans, etc. We might cycle the seats back and forth and do more than what you would normally do. We don't just install a seat and then let the car go down the line and hope that it's okay. Additionally, then we have what would be our normal process, and this is done and will be done on all cars forever. This is what we refer to as care, and here we have about 270 individual checks. We've got a quick video. Many times that you've been in the plant, you may have seen this or walked by it. It's a moving conveyor, and on here we have a number of people that are going through, and they're looking at many aspects of the car, some things that we are predetermined to include, and other areas that we just elect to include. And then the last, we have, once again, the normal water test that is performed on the car. 110 different checks that are taking place in this one. And then as you can see, once again, we torture the car before you get it to make sure that from underneath the car and in every aspect of the car, this is really like going through a high-pressure car wash. Okay, sometimes you may have seen videos of what we refer to as a squeak and rattle track. So at this point, if the car is passed up to this point, the car goes outside, and the car goes outside, and it goes down a track. The track, this is kind of a graphic of the track. So as you enter the track, you go through some really almost like small bumps that jar the car back and forth. You go through literally driving, in this case, this graphic says over ropes and then over rumble strips. You turn, you come back over different like Belgian cobble roads, and then back through twist ditches and whatnot. We're looking to see if the car's making any funny noises that we can pick up. And there's many reasons why it could. And by doing these tests, we know that we can find them. We have individuals that are driving the car. They're very acute in their auditory skills, so then they can find things. We've got a quick video that shows what happens. So here's some of the undulation, and you can see this is maybe a torque and twisting test where maybe akin to driving up a steep driveway. And then as the car comes back around, here's these almost like a parking berm where we're back and forth on the car, really working the suspension, making sure that that there's no noises. And then here's, of all things, driving over large scale rope, and then these rumble strips. And then lastly, we have here is what was referred to in that graph as like a Belgian cobble road that really rattles the car. So all cars go through this. 100% of the cars go through this squeak and rattle check. And then, and remember, we're still at 3,800, right? So the car, from a dealer standpoint, at this point, all they know is that the car has been built. All these processes that are going on, we don't change the status of the car from what the dealer can see. The last one that we have, or the next one that we have here is batch and hold. So once again, we have cars that go into a specific process where we're looking at more aspects of the car, 57 different checks. And in this one, this is one that will eventually go away, so we're actually doing this outside. Here's an example of us taking a look to verifying the functionality of that frunk release, taking a look at making sure that that button works, going into looking maybe even that all the materials are in this frunk area, and then you can see multiple functions of, in this case, something as simple as the glove box. Cycle that back and forth, make sure that we open and close door. The door effort is what we want. And then as you start looking at the different things that we're checking here, you can see that looking at how the frunk closes, making sure that we have good flushness there, and walking around the car, checking for just maybe functionality or appearance items. Sometimes people think when you're putting your hands over the car like that, it's like, why would you do that? It's amazing what your fingers can pick up, and many times you'll see our operators using the back of their hand because that's even more sensitive to pick up a discrepancy between maybe two panels. So you can see cars, this is out behind our factory. These are cars that are, they're not even close to being covered yet. But once again, you're looking for here 100% range of motion for the seats. Run them all the way up and all the way back. And then, like I said before, once we get to the point where we can prove that we don't have issues with a certain aspect that we're checking, then we just start eliminating these one by one. And the goal for us is to eliminate all of these checks because we've proven that they're not an issue, and then we simply audit them. Anybody surprised that we go through this many checks after a car is produced? Yeah. I always use this thought that some people say, trust and verify. I have a different way to look at it. You go verify, and when you verify enough, then you can start trusting. That's how manufacturing is. Even checking, for the steering wheel, of course, it telescopes in and out, up and down. Most people, when they get into a car, they probably never even move it again, but we need to make sure that it works as intended and that all the modes work. So we're really probably doing many more checks than a dealer would prior to delivery. And actually, in the hot Kentucky summers, the people that we have out doing this work, they actually like doing the interior tests, because while we're doing these tests, we have most of the time we have the cars running. So there's a little bit of air conditioning that's going on. So we tell them that we like them to be in the car so that they can make sure that what we refer to as the state of charge is good. So we run the car to make sure that the battery is in good shape prior to delivery. When I reviewed this video, I thought to myself, this person has very good penmanship and is very good at checking things off. And then Rachel, who helped make this video, she said, well, I sped that up like 2.5 times, you said? So she was even being more deliberate, making sure that all these check-offs were done correctly. Okay, so, whoops, I'm going to go back one. So just adding all these up, over 8,500 different checks or verifications are done on all the cars. And at that point, we turn the car to event 4,000. So all that work, all those checks, that big long stream of events, they're not comprehended in what a dealer can see. So people wonder, it's like, what's going on with my car? That is what's going on with the car. And now it turns into event 400. For us, Cooper's Lot is the company that ships the cars, and Jack Cooper. And the only thing that would be left is that we need to put a car cover on, and if the car is going to get stripes, then we send that to a small shop between us and Cooper, and they put the stripes on. Then they get loaded up, and they're ready to go. So then 4,200, this is what every new owner is looking for. That means that the car's shipped. So it's on the truck and it's on its way to the respective dealership. And then it is simply a matter of time, depending on where you are in the country. If you're way out west, sometimes we do put the cars on rail. They go from us to Toledo, and then they get on a rail. They go out west, and they're dispatched to the various dealers. By far, a majority of the cars leave on these trucks, and they go to their destination in batches. So geographically, we don't ship them in VIN sequence where one goes to California and then New York and then back to Arizona, etc. We wait until we have cars that are grouped in a geographic area, and then we move them. So, with that said, this is the idea of trying to demystify this, and I know that there's people that may have interest. Anybody have any questions about that whole process? Yes, sir? Well, I guess maybe from there's a microphone over here, and because we're doing this live, if you have a question, if you can say it into the microphone, then we will be able to share it with people that might be watching online.
On the motorsports park, what a beast! It's a great car. I'm impressed, and I've owned a few Corvettes. The frunk has been in the media attention. Maybe you could explain why maybe there wasn't a secondary latch placed in the frunk. Do the engineers have an explanation for that?
Yeah, the question for everybody is, why wasn't there just a secondary, maybe a mechanical latch, as opposed to, there is a secondary latch. When you release the frunk, you will hear a click and then another click, or if you close the frunk, you'll go past one detent. If you tried to lift it, you cannot, and then you have to close it. So there is a secondary latching mechanism that exists in the frunk. That's required by law. The change that has taken place with this frunk is that it's activated electronically.
I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe a mechanical one. On every car that I have, or has the hood, there's a secondary mechanical
yes
latch. So.
Yep, I understand. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, you have a question online?
If a dealer has an allocation of perhaps 50 cars during a given year, is it correct to assume that the delivery of those cars would vary significantly throughout the year? For example, one month the dealer may receive 8 cars and the next month none. Can you comment on this?
Yeah, so when a dealer gets an allocation, and by the way, this is not something that's handled at the factory level by far. A dealer gets an allocation for 50 cars. They don't get an or approval to actually turn their cars into a 3,000 level order instantaneous. It's not 50 at a time. They might get 10 and then 10 and then 10 and then 10. It simply would develop too much anticipation, more than what we would like. So the dealers have these allocations that are given out over a period of time. Therefore, that's one thing that we see a lot is that people, they don't understand why they have an order for so long, yet the car may or may not have been produced. That's it? Okay. Any other questions that we have? Yes, sir.
Yes. What happens to the dealers that have 14 cars that you've allocated but haven't been built? And what's going to happen to those prices if they go to a 21 model instead of a 20?
So that it is the case that we have a challenge because of our supply base and because of the COVID situation, et cetera, et cetera. And the individuals that will not receive a 2020 that they have ordered, the dealers have been notified of those, and it's our goal to put them first in line for 2021s. So, but that does require that you reorder the car. It's not an automatic, and the price is what the price is going to be. The price doesn't carry over to 21. Yep. Okay. You have one more over here?
In-person question 2.
Okay.
For the water testing, how much water enters the rear hatch? Does the area constantly need to be cleaned and cared for due to the water entry, or is there a drainage system to keep the engine area dry and clean?
Okay, so you're referring to a coupe, and the coupe has vents in the back glass above the engine, and by design it lets heat out. There's air that goes in the side of the car and out the back, and some of that goes through the rear hatch. Water does go in there. There are very large drains that are built into that part. However, I think that everybody needs to realize that the engine compartment is like any other engine compartment. It is not designed to be sealed. Water will get in there, debris will get in there, dust will get in there, and if you have one of these cars, then if you want to keep it looking good, then you're going to get out the rags and pick a cleaning product.
When the Corvette is going through the safety or the checks,
Yep.
if it fails one of them, does it go all the way back and then go back through?
That's a very good question.
Well, thank you. I thought it was a good one myself.
Yeah. Well, you can save your thanks until I give you the answer. But it's a very good question. If any test fails, the car is required to go and start that component of the test over. So in the case of DVT, if there's a failure for it, I'm going to use one that's common. It's not so common, but it's easy to happen. If the driver makes an error, it fails the test. That car has to come back around. It has to complete the entire test in one sitting, so to speak. And if it doesn't, it has to go back. And that's a key component. We don't make a repair offline and hope that it's okay. It has to go back and be completely retested. DVT is a good example. Same with an alignment pit. If we have an alignment failure, the car goes out, it has to come back in. The whole process has to be repeated. Well, I'm here and you're here. I would go for it. You're so polite. We'll let you do another one.
Well, thanks for that response. And then you may not be able to answer this question. It's just curiosity. How many of the tests that a car goes through, percentage-wise, how many Corvettes fail the tests that have to go through again?
Our goal is to have 0 that fail. The reality is that we have issues that we need to deal with. And my impression, my intent in sharing with you these 8,500 tests is that we are very, very thorough and we don't let anything leave the factory. But of course, if we knew that everything was going to be perfect, we wouldn't do any kind of testing. It takes a lot of manpower. I would say that all of the activities that we have outside and these extra care activities, I hired almost 75 people to just do those tests. And so it's not without a cost, but the cost is driven by what we want to do to make sure that the car's right for our customers.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I've got several newer GM vehicles that have got adaptive cruise on them. Will the Corvette have that, or does it have it?
The 2020 Stingray does not have adaptive cruise on it. That is something that the driver needs to do. I've actually heard, this is a quote from Taj where he has said, what about a different level of autonomous driving? And his comment has been, nobody wants to buy a Corvette to have it driven by itself. We buy these cars to drive them. So that technology is not there. But I would go on to say that it is a balance between how much content do you want in the car. It does add complexity. It does add mass. It is a sports car. We want it very high performing. And there's always trade-offs that are made. Yep, maybe one more question, then we should move on, because I have some more. Okay, too, you talked me into it.
We've had several people ask how many 2020s approximately you think will be built.
I don't think that information has been released yet, but we will build all of them. That was pro level, I think.
So that was the second part of my question, but the second shift just went online. How well has that been, and what percentage increase he's going to start seeing per day? And again, it'd be interesting to know what percentage of the people who ordered a 2020 are going to be able to get it, and what percentage are going to be moved to 2021.
Okay. You asked a few questions there. I'm going to comment a little bit on the addition of the second shift. It's widely known that this week, coincidentally to this event, we added the second shift. And that has been something that we've wanted to do for a long time. We started off the production with 2 shifts, and then we were met with the COVID situation. And let's just say that the work that you do in a factory, or some of my opening comments, this world is not easy right now. We've experienced a tremendous amount of supply-based challenges. It's not just this factory. I have 400 different suppliers that produce 2,500 parts for this car. And when I say parts, an engine for us is one part, right? So in that engine, it used to be one of the things that I used to do, there's hundreds of parts. And so the complexity in building a car is fantastic. And the fact of the matter is that many of the suppliers that we have, they're so unbelievably specialized because we do unbelievably special things with the components and the processes. So we don't have options to go and just develop new people for these things. It takes years to develop them. So we've been struggling with that. And now we believe that it's time to add the second shift, and we will increase production capacity. I would not be one that would try to forecast what that would be. There's just too many variables that are out there, and that's one of the reasons why we typically don't comment on those things. Last year, if I would have given you a number and then we experienced this COVID, I would be wrong, and whatever number I give you, I would certainly be wrong. I'm not trying to be evasive, it's just the reality of the situation. Rest assured, everybody in this factory every day, the 3 that are with me today are prime examples, but it's been tough work. But everybody has this pride that we're building such a great product. It does get us up, in my case, about 4:15 every morning, get in the plant and do what we do for all of you guys and gals.
Approximately how long after the COVID pandemic is over and dealt with will it be before plant tours, buyer tours will be able to go back online? And are you preparing for that now? And then secondly, with 2 shifts, how will the buyer's tour look different than it's previously looked?
Okay, so the first question, and I should have preempted this with regard to the plant tours. As I always say, we want to have plant tours. In fact, my previous presentation gave you a glimpse of the things we're doing inside the plant to change the experience that you all would have when you come to visit. For sure, two things have to happen. Number one, this COVID thing needs to go away, and then we need to have corporate approval. Right now, I can't bring anybody in the plant unless they have specific business. And honestly, people say, well, yeah, you're right. It could, somebody could get sick if they went in there. With all due respect, I'm not worried about visitors coming in. I'm worried about my people that are in the factory every day. They need to be healthy so that we can do what we need to go do. So that has to happen first. Now, the challenge of 2 shifts, and now you have you have a tour and you want to watch your car be built. I would say Red Bull, coffee, pick a caffeinated beverage that you're going to need, because one thing isn't going to happen. The plant's not going to stop. It's going to continue on. Actually, here at the museum, now we have photographers we have allowed them in. It's the only people, we don't really consider them guests. They are part of our fabric, and they're feeling the impact of 2 shifts because now they have more time that they need to be in the factory. Which do you like, coffee or Red Bull? You're always right. Yeah, you would. You'd sleep there. You'd come in my office and sleep. That's what would happen. Okay, let's keep moving on. All right, so the convertible. So that is relatively new. You probably have seen a few, maybe out and around in the parking lots. They're absolutely fantastic, and this slide, Conquering the Convertible, is what we want to show you. What's different about the assembly process when you put one of these things in. So a couple of photographs here. This is what happens that nobody knows happens, and we can't tell anybody that happens, but this is the first and the first. This is the first convertible that we ever produced in Bowling Green, and this is the first production convertible that we produced. Obviously, the one with camo was the first ever, and let's just say that I got asked, when was this? And I kind of racked my brain, and I thought, I really can't remember. There's been so much that's been going on. I'll say that it's more than a year ago. I won't get more descriptive than that, but I'll just say that in this case, Nora has a better memory than I did. She got it within a few weeks, actually. I was off a little bit more. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. That is a convertible top. Now, this is in a box about, this big, a steel container. And when we get that convertible top, all the components of the top, when you look at that close, this is the front of the car facing in this direction. And you can see what you would refer to in the coupe as the mid glass, or this is the rear glass. You can see where that would go up and down. And then those are black panels. They're all collapsed like they would be stowed in the back of the car. So that's how they come, all set up for us. And then what you're going to see here is a view from inside the car of the operators getting ready to install the rear or the convertible top. You can see that operator this is a seal that goes around the tonneau, and obviously taking that seal, and you wonder, it's like, well, why would he start in the middle? It's like, well, because you split the seal in half and you equalize on either side and you start working it around. Here you have the hatch or the convertible top being brought up onto the fixture, a really large fixture, and now you are riding along with the convertible top and getting moved over the line. You can see the skillet line. That's the moving orange conveyor that all the cars are sitting on. And as we slowly and very carefully move this car over, or move the convertible top over, you'll see that you get ready, one operator on either side of the car, and you see these little shot pins that are placed in to help guide that large and bulky item into position. Continue doing work as the car gets in the correct position, and then once that happens, then we get ready to bring the car down. You might wonder, this individual on the right-hand side, well, what was he doing? And then he goes back and he gets the seal. He's making sure that the end of the seal is perfectly where it needs to be, and then closing the gap with what's left. So now this convertible top drops in, and you can kind of see from two different viewpoints. Unbelievably complex fixturing that has to happen to make sure that this goes in exactly right, doesn't drop it, doesn't nick it, doesn't scratch it, and then off the fixture goes, and then it's get ready for the next convertible top that comes down the line. So that's something that I don't think anybody outside of the factory has ever seen. And then you get to the point online, this is our skillet line, there's a few more panels that are installed at this point. Nonetheless, we then, for the first time, operate this convertible top, and it's fantastic. So many different color combinations, blue with this with black top, or you can have body color, many other combinations. So it's pretty cool. All right, so this was kind of the the flavor of the presentation today, trying to answer the question about why can't you get everything you want when you want it, and then how we have these conquests, and of course these theme of the masks. One of the last slides that I have here, this is actually a cool slide that we've shared with the museum. This is 1 week ago today. 1 week ago today. Yeah, so it's 1 week ago today. This is the 1.75 millionth car that we arranged as a company to come to the museum and to be auctioned. So tomorrow this car gets auctioned off. Before we gave it away, make sure that I manipulate some of those numbers that we talked about. We took this car, and for a very short period of time, it was on display in front of the factory. We invited our employees to come out and have a photograph, which was really, really cool. Whoever wins this car, because it was a raffle here at the museum, they're going to get this photograph to take with them, and then we'll probably, Sean's over there kind of giving me the thumbs up, we'll probably take that photograph and maybe enlarge it for posterity. It's a pretty big event for us to have that car. So the brand new car with 1.75 million produced, that's pretty cool. And probably the only photograph that you might have with all of our employees with masks on. Yeah, it just makes me, it's great. I love it. Did you believe that? No. Yes. All right. Anybody have any other questions? And then we have a couple other things that we're going to take care of. But I'll take a question or two now. Yes, Mike. Mike LaRocca.
Hello. I was wondering, what kind of adjustments do you have to make to the production cycle to accommodate customer experiences like the engine build?
What kind of adjustments?
To the production cycle. Like if somebody gets the engine build experience, for example, how do you accommodate that in terms of the scheduling and the testing, and how does that sort of impact your process? Yeah,
so you're asking the question as an individual that came to build an engine in your ZR1. So what we have to do, when we were doing the engine builds with C7, we would put a little bit more space in between the build of the engine, and then because our engine build team is normally building the engine for you. However, in the case that you come and build, we would want to schedule the engine build usually a week before. But if you remember, we did have a program that we put in late in the C7 production where you could not only come and build your engine, but you could watch it go in your car, which is also a heavy, deep sigh for all of us, because now we have to coordinate that engine and then your car. Remember, 3 weeks before this, all your stuff's coming. So you need to be there with your engine. It needs to be perfect. And then so we don't keep you waiting in Bowling Green for a week, we need to have your car. It's already it's in process. It's past Chuck's paint shop, past Chuck's body shop, and then the engine gets dropped into it. You think it's easy. We make it look easy. It's not easy. So, but it's great. And again, just as an individual, as an example, truly appreciate that, and we love having our customers come in the plant. Yep. Okay, Sean. All right.
We're going to have you come over here in the middle for a moment, sir. Okay. Senator Wilson's right here. Well, that was amazing. Thank you, Kai, for that. And we're going to have another little bit of a surprise for you from Kai's group. But before then, I have another surprise for everybody here. And Kai hasn't seen this yet. And I've invited Senator Mike Wilson to be the one to bestow this resolution to Kai and his plant. So, Senator Wilson.
Thank you very much. And I'm the state senator here that represents this area, so I'm very, very proud to have the Corvette plant and the museum right here in my district. And one of the things we get to do as special recognition for things of notable achievement is we get to do what we call Senate citations, or we get to do Senate resolutions. And I did this Senate resolution in anticipation that we were going to, before COVID-19 hit, be able to have the brand new Corvette at the Capitol and have everybody see it. But that did not happen, as you know, because it's certainly been a different time. And so I'd like to right now be able to present the Senate resolution that I adopted on the Senate floor and read this to you in honor of the Corvette, acknowledging that it is the North American Car of the Year. So if you would indulge me, I'd like to read this. It was introduced in Thursday, March 19th of this year, a resolution honoring Corvette and acknowledging the General Motors Corvette assembly plant in Bowling Green. Whereas Kentucky has established itself as an auto manufacturing hub, ranking third in the country in passenger vehicle production, and whereas Bowling Green is home to the General Motors Corvette assembly plant, the only place in not only the nation, but the world where the iconic Corvette is made, and whereas all the new Chevrolet Corvette Stingray has been named to the 2020 North American Car of the Year by a 50-member jury of independent automotive journalists, and whereas production of the 2020 model would begin next month, that would have been in April, here in the Commonwealth, with customer deliveries taking place shortly thereafter, and whereas the Corvette was previously honored with this award in 1998 for the introduction of the 5th generation vehicle, and again in 2014 for its 7th generation model, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the General Assembly of the Commonwealth Kentucky that the members of the Senate, both individually and collectively, recognize the honor bestowed on General Motors and by extension on the Commonwealth of Kentucky by this award, and congratulate the company and those GM employees involved in the design of the new Corvette Stingray.
Well, I guess I have to say a couple words on this. First of all, the day after this was supposed to be announced was the day that we had to close the factory for the COVID. So I appreciate the fact that we still received the award. I'm so happy that we get worldwide recognition for such a fantastic product. I do want to take the time to say that it's much more than just the people that live and work in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We have the most fantastic engineering team in Detroit that help design and are so collaborative with us. We have the people that are out in the audience here, virtually and in reality, that purchase these cars. We have just a fantastic community in a fantastic state. So we're very, very appreciative of that. I've been a lot of places in the world, and this is unbelievably special, and we'll cherish this award forever. Thank you very much, Senator Wilson. Okay. I knew that was coming, but I didn't have a chance to pre-read it. Sean kept it secret, somewhat secret, so that's very nice. Once again, we appreciate that. All right, so we have a special treat for all of you today. We have Chuck Valentini, once again, to my right, who runs the paint shop. Many of you have most likely met him. He tirelessly works to make the Corvette paint jobs absolutely fantastic. And Nora, who, as I mentioned, really running all of the operational aspects of the factory. We are going to, for the first time ever in the world, in the universe, show you in person, without a mask on the paint, the two new colors. I'm trying to add a little bit of levity here. Help me. The two new colors. So we've announced that we have Silver Flare and Red Mist. These are going to be two colors introduced in 2021. Harlan and Taj and others have mentioned this, but nobody has seen them on a panel. A few years ago, when Sebring Orange came out, I brought this panel, and it was so exciting that we knew that everybody's going to want to come up and see it. So that's why we have these stanchions here. It's so we're going to be in here, and you're going to be out there. So Nora and Chuck, if you guys could come up, we'll first take off the cover on this rear quarter panel. What should we do first, Chuck? You want to do silver. Okay, so this is going to be a replacement for the blade silver. And by the way, everybody's going to say, well, can we take it out and compare it to one of the existing cars? Yes, we're going to do that. We're actually going to let these panels stay here for at least the entirety of the event here at the NCM, but this new color is called Silver Flare. Drum roll, please. So I would say that this color, per Chuck's opinion, has been it's been a little bit of work to get this color ready. It is ready now. What you see is what we would say this is what would be production representative. Both of these two new colors have a very unique ability to really show the curves of the car. They're absolutely fantastic. So this is something that we're very, very proud of. The comparison of this color to the existing blade silver is something that you really can't describe. In fact, somebody has asked me, it's like, well, how is it different than the current color? It's like, well, I don't know how you describe a color, other than just looking at it, right? So when we're done here, when we get the second one up, then for all intents and purposes, the presentation is going to be over. You're all invited up to take a look at this, and then we can make a plan to bring these panels out and get them closer to the cars that with the colors that they'll be replacing. The second color is what we refer to as Red Mist. And this is going to be a replacement for the Long Beach red. And whenever you are ready, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. All right. So that is neat and fantastic new color. If somebody would say, how would you describe this color? I would say, I don't know, candy apple red almost maybe, right? So that's another beautiful color that are going to come out in the 2021. Yes, sir?
Is it close to the crystal red tint coat on the C6?
Chuck's. Hey, Chuck, maybe the microphone over there.
So it is different than that. This color really looks outside significantly different. There is more metallic in it. It's a smaller, finer metallic. But like Kai did mention, both of these colors are going to travel a lot more than what you're used to Long Beach or the silver or in the old crystal claret. This color, when it comes across certain body lines on it, you're going to see a little more orange to it. Now, it's not orange. It's certainly a burgundy, but it's has more of an orange family to it when you catch it in. It's a tint coat, right? So with the tint coat, that means part of the color position is in the clear, so it provides more depth of color as you look through it. And on this body, it gets highlighted a lot more because it does that. The metallic in this is also different. We've drawn it closer to the surface, so you see it more. It's highlighted more across the car. And I would tell you on the silver one, the huge difference between that and the current silver that we have, the current silver is a much cleaner silver. It's brighter. This is a little more tarnish to it, but this travels much, much more so. And what I mean by that is when you tilt that panel, you're gonna see shade variation, right? You're gonna see spots that get darker. And what that does is it comes across the body of the car. That's what it does. You're gonna see the car go from light to dark as it comes across the body, and specifically where it turns on angles. It's supposed to do that. So if you're going to order the silver, make sure that you like that. It is a different look compared to the clean monotone look of a current silver. So it's supposed to do it. You'll catch it on that curve coming down from the top of the post. You can see it. You'll see it heavily coming off the door into the panel. You'll notice it. Rear hatches on the sail, you notice it a lot as well. So that changes color a lot more. As Kai mentioned, these are production panels. I painted these towards the end of last week. So they're from us. They're fresh panels, and this is what the car is going to be when you see it. So I think it's really, really good. I think they're the same.
They stay the same.
Yeah, they stay the same for that. Yeah.
Now you guys know why Chuck's the paint shop manager, right? The way I can describe it as, well, you got to look at it, then he can give a description like that. It's fantastic, and I give a lot of credit to Chuck and what the team in the paint shop has done to make a great product for us.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more thing before people get up. Sean needs to come up, and he's going to, when he's done closing the meeting out, then you are all welcome to come up and get a closer look and maybe ask a question of Chuck.
Thanks, appreciate it, Kai. That was awesome. Thanks everybody for being here. I want to thank Kai and Paul and Mobile and the Mozzie family and Michelin for being part of a great first day. All of today's presentations will be available next week on the museum members only section of the website. And then tomorrow we begin at 10:30. Here's a couple of things for tomorrow. We have a Hall of Fame roundtable with 3 of the 4 inductees. Wendell Strode, Mike McCaw, and Doug Feehan will be available for that roundtable. The Corvette team, Taj and Harlan, they'll be available tomorrow giving a presentation and a Q&A. We have the sold out 1.75 millionth raffle car will be raffled at 3 p.m. and that sold out in record time, as you can probably imagine. We also have the George Jones Corvette presentation. We've recently acquired George Jones's car, and it'll be here on the boulevard later on tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow's email will go out at 8:30 for all the virtual registrants. That's all. I'm between you and the paint color, so I'm going to move out of the way. Thanks for being part of the first day of the anniversary. Have a great day. Thank you.
I'm sailing away, set an open course for the virgin sea, 'cause I've got to be free to face a life that's ahead of me. On board, I'm the captain,